The Hash It Out Show is brought to you by Barreto Home Solutions, Bayou Audio and Video, Hot Works on the North Shore, JFK Martial Arts in Mandeville and Covington, Lil Dizzy's Cafe, The Green Law Firm, personal injury attorney, Kaylin Parker of Magnolia Wealth Strategies, Moe's Pizza, Lance's AC and Heating, CC's Children Blocks, The Pierre Family in Lafayette, Louisiana, Drums,
Hands up, hands up. If you winning and you don't give a fuck about a hater, tell them move, move, move. Cause I'm winning, I'm winning, I'm winning. I'm winning, I'm winning, I'm winning. I'm winning, I'm winning, I'm winning. I'm winning, I'm winning, I'm winning.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Hash It Out Show. I'm your host, JB the Sports Guy. We got a good one for y'all tonight at 7:30. The head coach of the Division I non-select baseball state champions here in the state of Louisiana, Coach Chad Abear of Sam Houston. He's going to join us at 7:30. And then at 8:05, a St. Augustine basketball legend and the new coach of University of Louisiana, right there in Lafayette, the one and only Coach Quannas White. He's going to join us right here at 8:05. You know I can't do it without my co-host. I had one with me. I don't know where he went, but then the other one popped up when that one went off. So I don't know what's going on. Maybe VK messing with George Pepper, since George Pepper's had a rib on him the other day. But I think George will be back. But I got VK Jones. What's up, VK Jones?
Hey, what's going on, man? Like, tag, share, subscribe to the Hash It Out Show, all social media platforms. And we got the Hash It Out Show website that is right under on the ticker. We appreciate your support and everything. And we got big time stuff coming up soon. And we're gonna have a whole lot of guests throughout the summer. We got 2 big time guests tonight. So we're looking forward to having a good show.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. I'm looking forward to it myself. I want to start the show off with this, man. You know, this is one of my favorite players in the state of Louisiana. That is quarterback for Destrehan High School, the one and only. What up, Duke? The one and only Jackson Fields. VK, we went to the spring game when Jackson Field was a freshman turning into a sophomore. And we left that spring game, VK, and I was like, yo, that quarterback. What's up, Coach Sam? That quarterback that's wearing number 17 at the time. I said, he going to be something special. I said this. I said, he can be something special. And then I think I posted some of his highlights, and he responded back, and I said, man, you're going to be great. You're going to be a great player. What was strange to me is that the recruitment for Jackson Fields never really took off like the way I expected it to. It was just odd. And I know last year he was hurt, but when you see Jackson Fields play, dude, there's nothing being lied to you when you watch him play. He is phenomenal. He is one of the best quarterbacks in the state. And I got him right there with John Johnson, right there. And you saw Destrehan last year when he was hurt. And it's not and we're going to bring in George Peppers. He's back now. All right, welcome back, George Peppers. But he's, not to bring down Destrehan, the team last year in the backup quarterback, but you saw a difference when Jackson Field was on the field. the offense was totally much better. He is a great quarterback. He's accurate. The crazy thing, VK, is that it took a viral video from ABC 26 slash WGNO, a viral video of him throwing a deep pass to Jabari Mack on a dime, over 9 million views for his recruitment to start going up. And I mean, he's being invited to camps at Ohio State, LSU, Florida State, Alabama. All these camps are inviting him now. And now, and I want to bring it up on the screen right here. Yes, on three has it right here. These are all of the schools who have offered Mr. Jackson Field so far: Nichols, Louisiana Christian, Jackson State, University of West Georgia, Lamar, Central Arkansas, and Millsaps. But before I go to one of y'all, I want to show y'all who has contacted him. Not offered yet, but contacted. Whoa! LSU, Ohio State, Alabama, Florida State, Oklahoma, Tulane, Charlotte, South Alabama, North Texas, Arkansas State, Incarnate Word, UTSA, Louisiana Monroe, UAB, Troy, Georgia State, Harvard, Southeastern, just to name a few. I'll say this and I'll let you go first, VK. My opinion, Jacksonville should have been got these offers. But it's never too late. And I'm happy for him because he is a great quarterback. And whatever school gets him, you will have a great quarterback on your team. VK.
Well, I can see where you're coming from with that and everything. I really thought he would be sooner recruited too, but at the same time, you know how it is sometimes when you get injured. When you get injured, some of them offers and some of them calls, they pull back. We've seen that in the past with plenty of players. One of the greatest examples and was a player formerly from Archbishop Rummel, Keith Fulton, and a whole bunch of schools was going after him until he got hurt, and those schools pulled back. So I'm saying there's a lot of players that injury bug sometimes. There, a lot of schools hesitate.
What's
Some
up, Devin?
schools to might stick to what they know, might stick to the commitment to the end, but some they pull back. So it wasn't a surprise that the colleges was kind of pulling back on Fields, but the reason why that I think he's being offered, not just the fact of that one highlight. Look at the like you look at the highlights that WGNO and also Josh Preston did of that spring game. You talking about like we knew he got better when he got healthy near the end of the year. But for him in a spring game against a lethal car defense, and car defense really just, they had big moments in the scrimmage, but there were moments that Jackson Fields made plays and real good ones. And a lot of big time colleges were seeing that and they felt like, wait a minute, they know how good this car program is. They know how vicious some of them, and especially the recruits they have. I'm like, this guy is throwing dimes over this defense, probably the top defense in the state. That's an eye opener to a lot of recruits, especially for him coming off injury. That
I'm,
is
I'm gonna
an
say this,
eye
and I'm gonna
opener. So
let George Peppers
that's
go
good.
because they saw Jackson Fields a year after that. They saw him, and I know he missed some games last year, but there is plenty of film of what this guy has done. And I just
That's
think
true.
he should have been got these type of offers and everything. But like I said, it's never too late. He's now on the radar, and his recruitment is starting to rise. George Peppers.
Kind of tells you how valuable he is to the Destrehan program. For all the talk about how great their defenses are, but minus Jackson Fields last year, they were a meddling program. They were a team that was, eh, not that elite top tier team offensively.
They
Struggled.
struggled. They struggled.
They
Yes.
did. Running back was hurt too. So there was other personnel besides Jackson Field that was hurt. I forgot the running back's name was a really good back,
It was
and he
Shane.
went down.
Shane.
Saying I know it.
Shane Lee.
Shane Lee.
That's
Shane
him.
Lee.
I think what did he get, an ACL, I think, or something. He had suffered a debilitating
Yeah.
injury last year.
Yeah.
So
Out for the
that
year.
said, Jackson Fields, we the three of us knew what we've seen of him. Film don't lie
No,
and the
Shane
eyes
Ward.
don't lie.
Shane Ward. Shane Ward.
Same one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Shane Ward.
Film don't lie and the eyes don't lie. Okay. The three of us saw what we saw with this man. And then you talk about the VK in the spring game against an undercard defense that pumps out D1 prospects like water, right? And he's doing that. I tell you, when I look at that list, there's two programs that stick out to me. All right, as far as where I think he would fit, a quarterback like his and his moxie and his skill set, and that's Georgia and Florida State. Because
Oh, big schools, huh?
Georgia, huh?
Big schools. Georgia, Florida
Big
State. All right,
schools.
go ahead.
Well, because if they're big schools, if they're getting he's getting their attention, he's got to be a fool to pass that up. But Georgia and VK loves me for the second one. Florida State, think about it. With Georgia, especially, they got to run it back with Gunnar Stockton this year. And what did we see in the bowl game against Notre Dame? Not good, not good. And then they're going to run it back with him. Florida State, y'all got
Gunner's gonna be
issues,
fine.
huh?
Gunner's gonna be fine.
I don't think he's that dude though.
He be
I
fine.
personally, I don't see the tape. And then Florida State, you know, y'all won what, 2 games last year? Florida State, where they go 2-10. And you don't, a guy like Jackson
Right.
Fields can do it, can be that spark and and whatnot. I'm just taking random guesses, but the whole point of it, y'all, where y'all been? We've seen this before. And y'all showed up. We know what this dude's about. We live here. And we cover this. We've done this the last few years. Well, a lot of years between the three of us. So it's not like we don't know what we're talking about. We do, you know. And that young man is going to be a D1 prospect. He is not going to a
He
state
is.
school, Tulane. He is not going to Nichols. He's not going to Southeastern. He's going to a Power Five school.
You
I
saying
think it's
you
happening.
saying you saying you saying once he goes to these big school camps, they're offering. You saying just like that. It's happening.
Well, when they pull the tape up and they pull the fact that Destrehan wasn't good without him, he's a difference maker. That's the thing. And then you look at his makeup. Look at his makeup. He's a good sized quarterback with a cannon of an
I
arm,
agree. Yeah.
um, and his moxie, how his build, as far as his mental build. He's a guy that doesn't flinch. When things get adverse, what does he do? Get down and dirty. Let's go. And grit. That's Jackson Fields, and whatever D1 school gets him, the big school. But I think what's incumbent for his recruitment now, he's got their attention. He's got to back it up in the regular season. Destrehan has to be that team in the regular season where they're at the forefront of discussions for a championship.
Let
Are
me
they
let me
there?
let me let me cut in right quick, and then we're gonna go to get VK the last word for 1 minute. But Duke 293 says, I think they look at all the weapons he had around him. I think that's hurt his recruitment a little bit, which it shouldn't because the guy can really play. Yeah, he can really play, and he had a he had a bunch of receivers last year, and he still got
Mhm. He did.
Jabari Mack and Greg Wilford this year. But I mean, the
Hmm.
dude stood out to me as a freshman going into a sophomore year in the spring game, and I was like, "Wow,
Yep.
BK, I give you the last minute."
Well, I definitely agree with the both of you. Yeah, he should have been have that love and that the offers and all that stuff early. You know what I'm saying? But better late than never. And at the same time, I'm like he has a chance to go anywhere, regardless of the fact. I don't think he's like. I agree with George. I don't think he might not go to any of those Nichols or anything else. Tulane might be. I don't know, but at the same time, he has an opportunity to go anywhere now. You know what I'm saying? And that's big for him. And that's showing that he's one of the best quarterbacks in the state this year. You know what I'm saying? Between him and John Johnson, right now, those two are the top two in the state coming up this
Ahead of
season
Wardell.
for
Ahead of
quarterbacks.
Abram Wardell. Out of Calvert.
Well, we can't forget about him.
Can't forget
We
about
can't
Abram
forget
Wardell.
about
Not at
him.
all.
Cannot.
We can't forget about Abraham
Or pay
Waddell.
or
There's no
or
doubt with him.
or
Well, hold
or
on.
Peyton Houston.
Just the seniors. That's about the seniors. Wardell,
Talking about the
Luke,
seniors.
Okay. Well,
Luke
Waddell's a
Delafield,
senior
Luke
Luke Delafield. So
Bettafield. We can't forget about.
it's a
from
group.
North
It's a good group
Minnesota.
of them.
Is Delafield is Delafield a senior coming up this year? I thought it was a
I think
junior
he's a
coming
senior.
up.
Yes, you might be right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
You
we'll double
sure?
check it. We'll double check it. Well, anyway, everybody, we're gonna take this quick commercial break, and when we return, the head coach of the Sam Houston Mustangs baseball team. It's Mustangs or Broncos, VK? Correct me.
It is
Okay. I want to make sure I'm
Broncos.
saying it right. I don't want to mess anything up. And I should know because I got family in Lake Charles, right? Coach, I'm gonna let Coach Chad Abear put me in a headlock, man. Big swole coach, man. He put me in a headlock, took me out for
Silly.
messing up. But the coach of Sam Houston,
Ooh.
Coach Chad Abear, he's gonna talk to us as they won the Division I non-select baseball state championship. Y'all stay tuned right here on the Hash It Out Show.
Hi, I'm Erica Randolph, head coach of the Hahnville Tigers boys basketball team, and
Are you in need of a new windshield? Leo Autoglass can help. For 20 years, Leo Autoglass have been servicing the New Orleans area with windshield replacement and auto glass repair. Give them a call today, 504-301-8353.
Hey y'all, this is Jen Hale from Fox Sports. You're watching the Hash It Out Show with JB the Sports Guy, VK Jones, and George Pepis.
Did you experience storm damage from Hurricane Francine? Barretto Home Solutions can help. You can give them a call at 504-940-7552. And welcome back to the Hash It Out Show. I'm your host, JB the Sports Guy, joined by VK Jones and George Peppers. Our next guest, like I said, he's the head coach of Sam Houston High School, and they won the Division I non-select state championship in baseball. We have the one and only Coach Chad Abear. Coach Abear, how you doing, man?
Man, I'm doing good. How you fellas
Oh,
doing? Thanks
thank
for
you,
having me.
Coach. And we're
No
doing
problem.
great. Coach, let's talk about it. What's the feeling like of winning that state championship?
Well, man, I guess it validated what we've been working so hard for so long. You know, I've been here 10 years and we've been to the state tournament 8 times, and we wore that bridesmaid dress more times than we got the ring. So it was finally just, the monkey off my back. You know, you hear all the naysayers, but it just validated that we're finally, in my mind, we're starting to tick up as one of the best programs in the
Most
state.
definitely. Coach, Sam Houston is your alma mater. You're from that community. Talk about how special it is also to bring the state championship back to this community where you're from.
We got a lot of pride in our baseball program, and in 2001, some of my best friends were on that team that won it. I had graduated before it happened, but to bring it back and to give the community that feeling again, and to know that we're starting to build something pretty special over the last 10 years, it's just a good feeling, man. It's became a family event. As a coach, you got a little thankless job. You feel like sometimes with my kids, my little girl, them, they love it, and they're just a big part of the community. So being part of the community and giving something back to the community like that was the biggest thing for me. To see all the people there that I grew up with, my aunts, my uncles, my cousins, my best friends from high school, to be there with them, to share that moment, that made it even
Most
more
definitely,
special.
Coach. You said something, Coach, that just caught me. You said your team wasn't a team, but they were a testimony. Explain your meaning about that.
So, you know, we live in this world of the transfer portal and NIL and all this stuff, and it's all self gratification and self promotion and what can I do for me and how can I get it. And at the beginning, probably 2 years ago, we started Bible study, and I'm a Christian myself, and I tell people for a long time I was a believer but not a follower. And now the more I try to follow Jesus and be in that frame of mind, it you start to pour into these kids, and we went through a lot of ups and downs, but then as a dad and as a coach, you pour into kids and you hope that the message gets there right. But then I start to see like Owen Galley's interview, and he's talking about God's timing because we talked about Jeremiah 29:11. And then I see Connor Walker talking about John 15:13 as we relate the Bible verse to our sack bunt game. And to see those things start to pour out, man, it was just a testimony to what it is I never felt like we were going to lose in the playoffs. Even when we lost the first game, I just knew that God had us, and I kept telling the guys, we're destined for this. This is our year. This is our time. And I think when you teach your kids that God has already written your story, they can play carefree because win or lose, it was God's plan. And that's kind of what I, try to hit home to. Just cling to your faith, man. Even in life and in baseball, God's got a plan already mapped out, and just let it be what it's going to be, and you can play free and carefree at
I
that
love it.
point.
I love it. Before I pass it on to VK Jones, I was telling people that this playoff run to me was just incredible and also probably the toughest ever. And what I mean by that is you guys had to go through West Monroe, a national power. You guys had to go through Barb, another national power. West Monroe and Barb won the last five state championships. And then you had to defeat Live Oak, who was ranked in the nation and was number one in the state. And you lost the first game to them and had to win the next two. Talk about this incredible run that you and your team went on to win this state championship.
So, I mean, talking about destiny and all that stuff, when the bracket came out and I seen how it fell, it gave me a little bit of sense of confidence that we were going to do it just because you've seen how everything laid out. Everybody that had knocked us off in all the previous years. And then the final team that we would get there was Live Oak, is a team that we had played the previous 2 years in the playoffs. So man, when we got to West Monroe and we won that first game without getting a hit, just figured out how to win, I started to really, in the back of my mind, I don't want to be, confident and cocky and ruin everything, but in the back of my mind, I'm going, man, these kids got a chance. They figured it out. They just won't go away. And the whole time, it was just like that win. Then we hit the walk off at West Monroe. Then we faced Troy Green, who's from y'all's area, man, who is a phenomenal athlete. Beat him. Then we go to Barb and we win 2-1, 1-0. And it was just like, man, like, you hear them in pro ball and in the big leagues and in the NBA finals, sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. And we got lucky a few times, but we were good for a good portion of those innings. And as that started to stack up, our kids just kept feeling like it was meant to be and it was going to be. And it's like when we lost to Live Oak in the first game, I said, guys, y'all were a team of firsts. You were the first team to knock off West Monroe since I've been here. You were the first team to beat Barb in the playoffs. You will be the first team to beat these guys 2 games in a row. And that was the first time all year they had lost back-to-back games. And we just kept feeding feeding that beast a little bit, just pushing that confidence in them. They can't beat you. They can't beat you. They can't beat you. And just keep stacking at bats, man, and good things will happen. And I really saw our team start to turn the corner. And it was a big moment in the game when Carson Chris, who was one of our better players all year, made a big error. Well, he comes off the field and he's kind of down because he let the team down. And Charlie Donaldson grabs him by the shirt and he goes, "Man, just keep playing. Just keep going out there. Something's good going to happen." And sure enough, Carson makes the slide and play in the 4 hole. Carson's the guy that relays the ball in the seventh to third. And, it spiraled, man. That confidence that they had in each other and that belief was just amazing, to see those guys build off of that. And man, it was a humbling experience for me because that morning I got so many texts from the community the day before game three. Bible verse after Bible verse. One of the parents texted me like, "This has really became a spiritual journey in Moss Bluff," and it had. It almost felt like it. You could just feel it all the time, like we just weren't going to lose.
PK.
Coach Abear, man, we appreciate you joining us. How you doing there? And let me ask you this, man. What was your breakfast this morning, and what you bench man? Because man, I
Man,
I, I tell you, when I seen a couple of those pictures, and I'm doing research on not just the team, but you as the coach, and I'm like, man, this guy, like, bro, I know he be in that gym every day, man.
I get in there every day, man. I eat the same gross food every day. It's just one of them things, man. I'm a creature of habit, and I've been on that road. And I tell people all the time, I said, one of my biggest mottos in life is if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. So if I just keep myself up, I feel like I'm gonna look good for a long time. So that's kind of where I go with it. I get up, I drink my egg whites. Everybody looks like me like I'm crazy, but it's 15-second breakfast. I drink my little coffee and I'm out the door.
Mm.
So
That's awesome, coach. I gotta get your plan, man. I heard all sporty. I'm trying to get to 250 right now, man. I got a daughter myself, so I gotta get to where you at a little bit.
I know that's right, man.
Yes, sir. But I actually 3 years ago I actually called the state semifinal game with you and West Monroe, and it was a great ball game in itself. And that was like the first time I kind of ever been to the baseball event. And I always keep, hearing about Sulphur and Barb, and I was like, well, Sam Houston's always there, and I was like, okay. And you guys have a great program. It was just, unbelievably kind of heartbreaking in the end that West Monroe walked it off. But
Yeah, they got
it
us. They
seemed,
did.
yeah, but it seemed like after that right there, here's just the fact this season, it seemed like it was kind of like late in the year, and it seemed like, well, looked like maybe a revenge tour a little bit for Sam Houston, because when I seen that walk off, I was like, oh, these guys coming, man. This is interesting.
When that was a big thing when they walked off West Monroe, and I say they because my favorite thing is the parents. The parents always come up to me. You ready? Well, I tell them that my response is the same. I ain't got to be ready. I'm not throwing a strike. I'm not hitting the ball. I'm not catching it. As long as they ready, we're gonna be all right, man. And when Botron hit that walk off at West Monroe, like you could just see the confidence. They knew, like it was almost like they felt they were bulletproof at that point. You know what I mean? And then I've been coaching here for 10 years, and there's never been an environment as crazy, as loud, and as tense as that Barb semifinal game was. You know, you're playing at a high school stadium, not at Sulphur in that big old stadium. Everything's right on top of you, and our kids didn't flinch. They just kept coming, man. And when we beat them, you could just see it going. And like when we lost to Live Oak, they didn't have there was no down, there was no doubt. They just knew, hey, we're back tomorrow, and we'll be at it. And like I could just see them breathing that confidence into each other, man. It was big. And then for me, on the personal side, it definitely was a revenge tour. I needed some grind, some axes to get in there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And you look at, I'm like this. You're the type of coach that brings no fear to your team, because that is two outstanding coaches you had to defeat. Seminole, Coach Seminole in itself, Wade Seminole, a legend, and also Coach Cochini. I mean, those two right then and there, they bring a lot of great strategy and intensity. But I know you bring the same too, but you give your players confidence and no fear. Like, we're not by being intimidated by these two coaches that are really great, but not just that, these two great programs.
And and I think that a big thing for me was when we beat Barb. Me and Coach Glenn, we've been friends for a long time. I worked for him in 2006. That was my first coaching job. I was a student coach there, and so beating him, it felt good because, man, let's be honest, he built Southwest Louisiana baseball. What he started doing in 1985, getting baseball a P, building facilities, and all those things, you got to be grateful because Sam Houston doesn't have what we have without all the work that he did to get people involved. And so now parents and people are so competitive. If somebody gets something, the next school is trying to get turf. The next school is trying to get a locker room. So when he did that, man, he bred a lot of positive competition in these communities, man. And it was big, and I have the utmost respect for him. We talk daily, and he's been a very big as competitive as we are, and as much as we've hashed it out over the years. I have a lot of respect, and there's a lot of times when I'll call him for advice and things. He coached both his sons. My first one came through and is gone. My second one's coming through, and so we had a lot of parallels in our life, man, to where I could just lean on him at times. And he was really good to my family. My son, his sophomore year, had a tough time with some people being the coach's kid, and we went and sat in Glenn's living room, man. And him and his boys talked to my son through those issues, and I'm forever grateful for that. And you know how it is. I mean, I tell him all the time, nobody hates you. Everybody just hates a winner. Everybody hates the Yankees. Everybody hates the Chiefs right now. Everybody just hates a winner. And that dude's been winning for a long time. They don't not like you. They just don't want you to win. And then that's the hard part. He does it. He's a competitive dude, and I love it.
We're hoping to have Coach Cochini one of these days on our show, because I know he has some great, unbelievable stories in itself, and he is a legend in the state. But we did have Wade Seminole one time on our show as well, so we hope to have him But at the same time, tell us a little bit about any of your players being highly recruited, and also the future of Sam Houston, because it's been very bright. But y'all guys, it's been unreal how y'all been really been staying consistent.
The recruiting things is different now. In the years past, we've had some guys that recruited really heavily early, but with these new rules, our two guys, we had several seniors that signed. Walker's going to McNeese, Flanagan's going to UL, Boltron's going to Belhaven, Peshoff and Maddox Hardware both going to Bossier Parish Community College. So we had some guys signed, but now, we had those seniors, but we were very young before that, to the point where like I told people, we threw four sophomores and a freshman in the state championship, and everybody's like, where are they going? I'm like, well, no, they're not allowed to recruit them until August of their junior year, so some of them kids can't even get a talking to yet, especially even as talented as they are. And like, people don't realize, like, Grant Ostelet started the back half of the season. He was a freshman at third, and he was clutch all playoffs. Quinn Fiascanero played a good bit in left field. He was a freshman. I mean, Cannon Kaiser, who punched out Cooper Smith and Washington to get us out of the sixth, was a freshman. Harlow, who relieved in game two, was a sophomore. Galley is a sophomore. So we're poised to be pretty good for a while. And like, I think that Galley will be our next big guy. I tell people at Barbie threw a complete game in high school in 85 pitches. That's unheard of. That guy he can roll out of bed and throw strikes, So I think he'll be the next guy. And then the guy that, I've said this, and I actually had a meeting with one of my players, was Britton Gardner. Nobody talks about him, but he was our game three starter. Like, in the plan from the playoffs was he's going to be the game three starter. And we didn't go to a game three until the state final. So that guy had only thrown bullpens and at practice, and to come out and give us the five strong that he did, everybody forgets about it because the
Oh,
We lost coach for a second. I wonder if somebody called him.
I'm sorry about that. The back
But
half,
hey,
the back half of the game was so intense. Everybody forgot that Gardner kept us in the game for five strong innings against the number 20 team in the country, and that little guy's only a sophomore, and he was really good that night. So we've got the makings of something special. We have some Brock Blessington that came in and courtesy ran in both games, actually scored the run in game two. That was the walk off on Galley's single. He was a freshman, so we were rolling guys out there, and I've always said I'm just not one of them guys that believe in seniority or things like that. If you're on the team, you're on the team, whether you're a freshman or a senior. And then if you earn your stripes, then I'm going to throw you out there. And I firmly believe that. And I think more and more high schools are going to that. You're seeing more and more really talented younger kids play a lot earlier. And I'm proud of coaches for that, for just, doing what's right, you know what I mean, and getting away from sometimes like just we're just gonna play the seniors because sometimes you got to give those young bucks their due, and we do, and we had this year. We had to this year, not like, they were just ready to go. So it was nice, man, to know that we have that much young talent coming back.
That wow. Last question, Coach, before I give this to George Peppers. This region in itself, baseball has been a very good state in itself all around, in all levels, including high school. High school sets the tone for college baseball in Louisiana. What are your thoughts on your program being up there with the Sulphurs and with the Barbs, but not just that, to have that area in general being one of the toughest areas in the state of Louisiana in baseball?
Man, to be in the same sentence as two major programs like that just gives you a sense of belonging, sense of pride. We knew we needed to win one to validate. You can win 30 games every year, you can lose in the semis every year, but until I've always said, until you kick down that door and win a championship, you're really just a second tier program. You know what I mean? Until you have that ring to say, hey, this is who you are. It's like when they talk about the greatest quarterbacks of all time, they don't really talk about Dan Marino, and he was probably the best, but he don't have that ring. When they talk about Charles Barkley, you're one of the best players in NBA history, but you don't have that ring. And so people tie success to getting that ring. And I mean, like I've always said it, the ring will never define me as a man and who I am. But to say your program is where it needs to be, you almost have to have one of those to say, hey, we did it. We're here. We're one of you guys. You know what I mean? That pedigree or whatever that you want to call it to get that ring, it matters to people. It really does. And look, you guys are just sports guys like I am. People with the transfer portal and stuff like that, they're going to go where they think they got a best chance to be a part of a winner. And And that's what it is. And when you win the big one, it makes you feel, or the perception is you're even more of a winner. And so that was big for us to put us in that situation to be in the top of the state.
Wow, unbelievable, great run, and hope you guys continue with it. But I know that is a very very strong region in itself. It's amazing what we have seen. I always, like I said, I always thought it was Bob and Sulphur, but when I found out more about Sam Houston, I like, okay, we got to give these guys respect too, because these guys, they can play as well as anybody else. George Peppers, yup, George.
How you doing, George?
George, can you hear us?
Hey, coach.
George, you got
Yeah, I can. This team winner that acting a fool, but
Go ahead, man.
hey, Coach Abear, first off, thank you for taking the time to join us. All right, can
Oh,
y'all
not a
hear
problem,
me?
man. Yes, sir. I got you.
All right, all right, beautiful. Congratulations, first off, before I start. Congratulations on winning a state title and a breakthrough championship for you guys. But I got to ask this before we break down how you got there and whatnot. Has it sunk in yet? Are you off cloud nine yet?
Man, I'll tell you, it was a weird feeling because we won it on a Saturday, and then we had tryouts, picked the freshman team 2 days later. So it was almost back to work, and then it was a couple of days after tryouts when I sat down and really got to go through the videos on my phones and the text messages and stuff like that that it really set in that, man, hey, we did it. Guys, we did it. And I actually sent in the parent group, man, hey, I don't know if y'all know we're state champions, like a few days later. So yeah, it stuck in, man, and it's a great honor, but I try to be humble about it, not dwell on it too much, and not put it in the forefront of my mind, and just, because at the end of the day, Nick Saban's got a bunch of them, but that dude never stopped working for the next one. So at some point I had to, rein myself in and say, all right, we got to start planning for 2026 now. So those
There you
types of
go.
things, it's just tough.
That absolutely is. And considering the environment baseball is in this state and how, again, Lake Charles being the power it is, you got to be on game every time. Next question. Let's talk about the playoff run. You didn't lose a game into the final, but when you lost game one against Live Oak, what was your message to the team? Because that was the first bit of adversity. You swept every other series, and yes, you had some adverse moments, but you actually had to come from behind and win two games in a row. What did you tell your team before game two against Live Oak?
I think I mentioned it a little bit, touched on it a little bit, but I just kept telling them, man, you're a team of firsts, and you were the first team to beat West Monroe. You're the first team to beat Barb, and you'll be the first team to beat these guys 2 games in a row. And like I told, said before, they were so battle tested from the earlier playoffs runs at Barb and West Monroe. We just had that belief that, hey, man, this is our year. We're going to go do this. And we did, man. And it was, and I'll say this: I've been in some tight games and stuff, but those 3 games couldn't have been any more entertaining for the fans. They were down to the wire every single time, and that was the fun part about it. Is like it was good baseball. Like it was up and down and back and forth, and it was like who was going to flinch first. And they made the little error right there on the bunt, and I think that kind of got us in the place. But heck, man, that's like I told them, we had the momentum in the lead, but then they had bases loaded in the seventh. Like it wasn't like we just walked out of the seventh with a ring. We had to hold our breath for a minute there. And so they were just
Now,
prepared for an earlier run.
okay. The thing that impressed me the most about your run is your pitching. How it held up through all those best of threes, low scoring games where your pitchers had to get outs and your hitters got some clutch hits. That to me was the most impressive aspect of it. And talk about how key your pitching rotation was. You mentioned earlier you had to run a lot of freshmen and youngsters out there. Was that concerning, or did you have believe that they could get the job done?
That group that we rolled out there, I mean, and it's funny that you say that. Like, you have some guys like Kaiser who has some serious self belief. That dude's all of 5'2", but he swears he's 6'6". So I got no problem rolling that guy in there. We put him in some tough situations all year long, and even after he failed in some games, he was just right back out there. Bennett Harlow, same thing, man. He was really good early. He had a really bad, moment at the Sulphur game, and then he was clutch at West Monroe. He was clutch at Live Oak. Like those kids, him, Gardner, they just have some serious self belief, man. You can't tell them that they're not the best guy that day. And I tell them a lot of times, in this world, self belief is a superpower. Not a lot of people believe in themselves anymore, and there's a lot of fear and doubt in the world. And that pitching staff we had believed in themselves. And the one thing that we did a good job of, man, is we just limited the walks. We didn't give up the free passes, and we played really good defense for the most part behind them, and it kept us going. So, you go to Barb and Galley's got an 85 pitch count. Cole goes complete game, and it was just one defensive play after another. When you're doing that and you're not walking guys and they got to earn their way on it, makes you really tough to beat. And from the offensive standpoint, we picked our pitchers up because when we had to get the big hit to get them a little bit of breathing room, we did all playoff long, and that's really what kept us in there. We get the big double by Boltron to get us back in the game to tie it up. So now we got a little bit of breathing room where our pitchers can pitch a little bit. The walk off, we got no hit and we just figured out how to get on base, and our pitchers just kept us in it by not walking guys and not giving up the free passes. And there's just play after play throughout the playoffs I could go through that where defensive that we kept ourselves in the game. In West Monroe in the first game when we won, not a lot of people realize is that they hit a ball, they score a run, and then we throw a guy at the plate for the second out of the inning. If that guy scores, they end up beating us anyway. So there was a lot of plays in those games that go unnoticed on the stat sheet because our pitching was so good that you don't realize that the defense picked them up several times. And so
Mhm.
that's a big part.
Totally understand. I admire this. And before I ask my next question, you talk about you quote scripture every day, and you always quote scripture, and I really admire that trait. That is an admirable trait about you, and I commend you and respect you immensely for that. And I wish there were more coaches, quite frankly, that would go and lead by your example. My next question is pretty simple. The format we have now, best two of three every round, and then we have pitch counts. When it first came to pass, what was your position on it?
I liked it because I felt like there was a couple times in the playoffs where we ran into the semis and stuff that we were the better team. They just had the better pitcher that day, and so
Hmm.
I felt like it didn't take a state championship away from us, but we would never know. I felt like we could have beat some of those teams 2 out of 3. Now whether we would have or not, that's a different story. But
Hmm.
in baseball, that's why everything's a series. Same thing in basketball. Everything's a series. You get to see who the best teams
Hmm.
are. It's like I tell people, the big winning percentage in the big leagues. If you win 500 or a little bit better in the big leagues, you're pretty good. And even in the NBA, but you look at the NFL, there's a lot of teams that go 12-3. Those dominant teams in football, because it's a sport built around bigger, faster, stronger, and it's the same system every day. You run a different pitcher out there every night, and it changes things. So I felt like we got beat by some of the better pitchers, not the better teams in some of our previous playoff runs. And this gave us a chance to really say, hey, look, man, we got 3 guys that can go. Let's see if you can beat them. And, we stood that, and it came down to game 3 at Live Oak. And I just feel like our 3 was a little bit better than their 3 that night, because they were a really
Hmm.
good team.
Last question. I mean, look, listen, to knock off West Monroe Barb and then a nationally ranked Live Oak, that is to me qualifies as one of the most impressive runs by any state champion in recent memory. To me, you got three national powerhouses, West Monroe Barb, and then you knock off Live Oak, spotting them a game, coming back to get the last two. To me, that's one of the most impressive runs. My last question. It's never too early to look ahead to 2026. And I know coaches will say this, every coach in every sport will always look ahead the day after. But you talk about how much youth you have and how big they were this year. Now, the expectations at Sam Houston are going to be elevated because you now have what everybody wants, and that's a state title. What do you feel like you have to do to maintain that level, and how do you handle the heightened expectation? How will you handle the heightened expectations coming into next season?
Well, I mean, the one thing I tell our kids every year is you'll never play with the same group of kids ever. 2025, those seniors are gone. They're legends and they're ghosts of the program. So now you got to define yourself as the team of 2026. So each year is a new year. Whether we won a championship in the past or not, it doesn't have any bearing on what 2026 brings. So I tell our kids, you have to define yourself every year as who you want to be. We're going to do what we do as a program strategically, but in high school, you know how it is. You're dealing with kids and emotions and hormones and all those things. So you got to blend all that together to keep that unity and stuff, especially in this day and age. You really got to build a culture because in this day and age, everybody wants to get theirs and to get mine and to get posted on, Prep Baseball Report or Perfect Game or whatever. So it's really just about us being humble and staying true to who ourselves and staying, trying to keep ourselves as faith based as we can and to stay in those types of things. My big message all the time to our kids is, and I think anybody that's a dad would agree to this, is you have to be a good man, not a nice guy. Nice guys a lot of times just tell you what you want to hear, and but that's not the truth, or maybe they'll tell you some things and that's not what they say behind your back. A good man is going to do what's right no matter what, and he's going to invite confrontation, and sometimes you have to be confrontational to get things. And I tell our guys all the time, if you go back to the Old Testament, they settled everything through war, and that's in the Bible, man. So a lot of those guys were tough guys back in the day, and you have to be a good man, especially if you have children these days and to raise them up right in the world. And so that's one of my biggest messages to our team is be a good man, not a nice guy. And stay true to stay true to who you are. Don't go follow the world and don't go follow those things because guys, we all know we're all young, especially me, man. I followed the world. I was arrogant for a long time. I said it in my interview for a long time. I coached chasing that ring and everything. And I tell people this all the time. When you coach chasing the ring and you chase the win, every loss is a devastation and every win is a relief. And you can't sustain life that way. And when I started to really just focus on the kids and let them be who they be and coach a little bit more. Now, look, I'm still hard nosed and I get into them and all that stuff. That's never going to change. But when I started to focus on them more as a man, our wheels in this program really started to turn. And I know it's hard for some people to look at me because they know my past and this, that, and the other. But I tell people when I started to dig into being a follower and not a believer, I started to change. And it's been a slow process peeling the onion layers back, but I just want that for those kids. I tell people my main reason to coach is because I don't want those kids to make the same mistakes I made in their life. If I can prevent that, man, they're going to be a lot better off in the long run. And that's why you coach in high school. Those rings are great and all that stuff, but you need to be a mentor in high school because 90% of your players are not going on to the next level or not going to do all those things, but they are going to be a husband, a father, a dad, all those things. And you have to feed into that or otherwise you're missing the boat.
I totally agree.
I'm not
Totally
Jay
agree, Coach.
Johnson. I'm not getting $1 million to do this, and then they're not going to fire me if I lose a bunch of games like those guys. So I've got to find what feeds me as a coach and what keeps me in this profession is the kids because it's not the paycheck, right?
Right.
So that's
True.
what keeps me in this profession. The better I can be at being that guy and changing myself and being an even more positive role model for them, because I tell people all the time, this team really changed me because this was probably not my most talented team that we've had in recent years. They were really young and then they figured it out. But once I really committed to just being there for them, I had a conversation with Connor Walker in my truck one day. I was like, man, you got to lead. This group is young. They needed to come from a player. And I said, even if you got to go out and make me the villain and say, hey, man, play in spite of him and those types of things. And you have to take that role. You got to give them something to play for. And then when they started to feed into Bible study, and I started to hear them kind of throw the verses around and then go off down the line and pray on their own, I was like, man, we're really on to something here, you know. And it's tough, man. It's tough to be a center, and in the back of my head, sometimes I'm like, man, is this really your calling? Is this God really want you being the one to lead these young men's? And you got to tune that out sometimes and just go, look, I'm not perfect. I know I'm going to mess up, and I got to give myself some grace at times, as everybody should, when you're not perfect. And I think that's where I got away from chasing the ring and chasing all that stuff, and just kind of my focus shifted. And I tell you what, it allowed me to coach a lot calmer too, and not be so emotionally invested in the game and being high strung. It's like I told our kids, I said, man, I almost cost us the state championship. And they're like, what you mean? I said, I was so happy when Donnie was flipping that ball to first. I almost tackled him before he flipped it, before the dog pile. So I almost got us. I was so happy for that kid, man.
Oh, definitely, Coach. Coach Abear, man. Once again, congratulations to you, your staff, and your players on winning the state championship. And we also want to wish you good luck moving forward.
Thank you, guys. Anytime y'all need me, man, let me know. I appreciate all the positivity, man. You did a good job in that West Monroe game. I'm just letting you know. I remember.
I appreciate that, man.
Yes, sir.
And it was funny because I just, I think it was 3 years ago. That was like I'm in year number 2 of doing junior college baseball for BRCC and Nunez Community College. So they called me to come in, and I just try to get the best energy I can in those games, man. But I appreciate that, and I'm gonna continue to do what I can do.
We'll see y'all around, man. Thank y'all very much.
Thank you, Coach.
All right,
Appreciate
Coach.
it.
Yes, sir. Thank y'all.
All right.
Yes,
Coach
sir.
Chad Abear, the head coach of the Sam Houston Broncos. I'm gonna get it right. Um, and in 3 minutes, y'all, we will have Coach Quannas White, the head coach of the University of Louisiana Raging Cajuns men's basketball team. And before we take this quick commercial break, I just want to say, you know, it's phenomenal to hear his story of how he changed as a man, you know, through Christ, following Christ. It's just phenomenal, man. And this is what I'm gonna remember for the ages, VK and GP. But with that being said, we're taking a commercial break, and like I said, when we come back, Coach Quannas White will join us right here on
Green
the
Law Firm
Hash It
is
Out
a
Show.
full-service law firm specializing in personal injury, criminal law, successions, and family law. With over 25 years of experience, the Green Law Firm continues to provide efficient, competitive, and effective representation to clients throughout the state of Louisiana and all across the nation. Consultations are free. If you're looking for results, call the Green Law Firm at 504-328-3990. That's 504-328-3990, located at 931 Westwood Drive, Suite B in Marrero, Louisiana. The Green Law Firm.
At Bayou AV Security, we are your one-stop shop for all your needs, whether it's enhancing your home entertainment system, securing your property, ensuring a seamless internet connection, or illuminating your outdoor spaces. We've got you covered. Bayou AV Security, where technology meets reliability. Call us today to experience the Bayou difference.
JFK Martial Arts offers a wide variety of martial arts programs for kids, teens, and adults as they empower lives through martial arts. Please give them a call at 985 266 0664, and don't forget to ask about their 1 week free special. And welcome back to the Hash It Out Show. I'm your host, JB, the sports guy, alongside VK Jones and George Peppers. Our next guest, this guy played at St. Augustine High School right here in New Orleans, Louisiana. Went on to play at Oklahoma, and for the past 8 seasons was an assistant coach to the guy he played for, Coach Kelvin Sampson, at the University of Houston. And now he's back home in Louisiana as the new head coach of the Raging Cajuns at University of Louisiana, the one and only Coach Quannas White. Coach, how you doing?
I'm doing good, fellas. Doing good. How are you guys doing?
Well, we're doing great, Coach. Doing great, and just happy to have you join us today. Um, let's get right into it, Coach. Becoming a head coach was a goal of yours, but why was this move to the University of Louisiana the right move for you?
Well, uh, like most assistant coaches, we all strive to one day be a head coach. I think the important thing is the journey, right?
Yeah.
Being patient and just waiting on that time. Be where your feet are. I've learned that uh, from all the coaches that I had the opportunity to work for. But why University of Louisiana? I can't talk about the administration at University of Louisiana enough. The athletic director starts with him and the president, Dr. Savoy, Dr. Maggart, great people. Had countless opportunities to sit down with Dr. Maggart this spring, listen to his vision, and then it being home. Uh, coming back. I'm born and raised in New Orleans, Louisiana. Lafayette being 2 hours up the road. What better place than to start my head coaching journey than to come back home and do it. So, I mean, fellas, it was a no brainer for me, honestly. I ran my AU program, Louisiana Dynasty, with the help of two of my really good friends, Coach Kendall Smith, Kermit Smith, who played at Xavier University. So to have an opportunity to come back to Louisiana and be the head coach at a really outstanding university like UL. Uh, I wouldn't have it no other way, man.
What are some of the things Coach Calvin Sampson has taught you when you were playing for him in Oklahoma and you being an assistant coach under him?
Well, Coach, every time he gets interviewed, he talks about the importance of three people not having a bad day, right? It's the head coach, the best player, and the point guard. Well, I was his point guard, for 2 years at Oklahoma. 2002, we went to the Final Four. The very next year, we went to the Elite Eight. And man, I get the question about how much has he changed? Is it different working for him than when it was when you were a player playing for him? And man, he's the thing I've learned the most from him is as simple as I can put this is just being consistent. Not having a bad day, man. I've honestly, in the 2 years I played for him, the 8 years I worked alongside of him and worked for him, uh, that man has never had a bad day, and I mean that. And I'm talking about in terms of his intensity, how much he cares to make sure everyone in that program is doing their job. I heard him do an interview the other day talking about the culture, and the culture starts with the head coach. He even mentioned me, about the University of Louisiana, and he's absolutely right. The culture starts with me. I'm the head coach of that program, the men's basketball program to be exact. But he's just been consistent, man, every single day, from our staff meetings, to when we watching film with our guys, with our players, until, he walks on that floor, he's ready to go from the moment practice starts till it ends. And to do that every single day for the amount of years he's been doing it, and for me to sit alongside of him and experience the success that we had, man, it's a credit to, him being consistent. And so that's what I've learned from him, man. Obviously, he hangs his hats on the defensive end. He loves, lives and, dies by you being a great rebounder, and just holding guys accountable. You know, I get a lot of coaches, when I traveling on the road, going to these AU tournaments, and they ask me, how do you guys, what do you guys do at practice to become such a good rebounding team? And, he's big on whatever you emphasize, you're going to achieve. And so he's been consistently, on our guys, holding them accountable for, playing hard, you know, uh, getting second and third chance opportunities, and not turning the ball over. And so he's just consistent at, coaching and emphasizing the things that he believes is important to winning games. And that's why we've been really successful, man.
You speak of being in charge of the culture that you have now at the University of Louisiana. How important is it to get players who want to play for your program and who also want to play for each other?
Man, that's a great question. That's extremely important, especially in this day and age. The landscape of college basketball has changed, and it's going to continue to change. And so, man, you're not just evaluating those players; you're evaluating the parents, right? And now you have agents that's coming to the fold. It used to be high school coaches, AU coaches, which I was the AU coach, right? Uh, but now you also have agents. And so, but again, it comes down to the players, their families, making sure you're building genuine relationship with all of those people. And then, making sure these guys truly, truly still want to keep the main thing, the main thing. And that's okay. Do you want to come to school to develop? Do you have aspirations of becoming a professional? Do you want to graduate from school, or is money the main thing, right? And so, my staff, myself, because you don't get anywhere by yourself, right? We had a Hall of Fame head coach, obviously at Houston, but we have an elite staff. I had an elite staff and still does, right? Well, I can say the same thing about the guys that I've hired at UL and myself as well. And so, but it starts with those relationship, fellas. You got to build relationships. You can't be lazy in recruiting. I like to outwork work. I'm not big on just going to get, a 4-star or a 5-star. I want, that'd be great, right? If you can get a 5-star or 4-star, but they got to be the right type of kid. And again, they got to keep the main thing the main thing. Do you want to get to the tournament? Do you want to win a national championship? Because you got to think about it. If God says the same, I hope to coach as long as I can, right? Let's say 25, 30 plus years. Well, all these kids have 4 years to try to accomplish their goal if that's what they want to do. And so the guys I want at UL are the guys that want to compete for championships, want to make the tournament, want to graduate, and then go chase your dreams and let the NIL or the rev share part of it be just an added bonus. That's important. I don't have a problem with it, but let's just keep our priorities in order.
Definitely. VK.
Oh man, Coach Quannas, man, how you doing, bro?
What's up? What's up, my man?
Not much, bro. Man, all I'm gonna tell you is this, bro. I know it's been a minute, and I'm like this. You about the 4th or 5th person that I can say that, bro. You've been out the state for too long, bro. That accent is different. Lord Jesus.
You're the first person to tell me that, man.
I didn't experience that before, even with a cousin of mine. And I'm like, when somebody been in Texas or somewhere for too long, it's like, say, bro, where that
You
accent come
lose it a
from, man?
little bit, don't you?
Man, but it's good to have you on the show, bro. I know you've been a busy man, working with Oklahoma. I almost forgot you were still on staff. So I'm like, man, what am I doing trying to book this dude this early, man? I should have waited. But we appreciate you taking the time, man. So,
Nah,
but
it's all good, my man. It's all good,
absolutely.
brother.
Yes. First of all, I got to ask you, what made you ready to finally become a head coach in not just in any level, period? Because I know you had experience as an assistant coach over the years.
Yeah, well, man, look, I've been blessed to sit under a guy that I think is one of the best to do it. A lot of people may call me biased, but man, when you can win at several different institutions and win at a high level, I mean, Coach Sampson's, I think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, he's been to the tournament at Washington State, Indiana, Oklahoma, and now he's rejuvenated a program that had kind of fell off the map, right, since the Five Slammer Jammer days, and so that's what's made me ready, man. I gotta give a ton of credit to him. You don't get anywhere by yourself, man, right? And even the guys that I worked for before, Coach Ed Conroy opening up the door for me at Tulane. Coach Rick Stansberry, who I got an opportunity to work for 1 year at Western Kentucky. But Coach Sampson, again, I believe he's one of the best. I played for him and I worked for him, and he's been preparing me even through when I played for him. I watched him and listened to him, and I learned from him because I knew one day when the ball stopped bouncing, like it's gonna stop bouncing for several of these young cats. If you want to stay around it, man, you should start paying attention, even while you're a player. And so that's helped me, man. And so but experience is the best teacher. I've coached in, I want to say, 7 straight NCAA tournaments. This past one being a national championship. I mean, experience like that is invaluable, right? And so just all the preparation I've had at practice, Coach Sampson giving me the opportunity, me and Kellen both, every single day at practice, majority of the practices, I have the red team. Kellen to have the white team, and we'll go up against each other. We'll scrimmage. I'm calling plays. I'm controlling the huddle. And then, it's been times throughout the season where, I've had some major impacts in the huddle in game, right? And so him trusting me enough and, to try and put my imprint on the players in the program. And so, Coach Sampson also, when COVID was around, you know, Kellen and Coach Sampson had to sit out a game. And so, I got my first try and crack at it, right, against South Carolina, Coach Frank Martin, who I got a ton of respect for, who I think is a Hall of Fame coach as well. But, I got to coach that game. We were 10-0. We were undefeated at the time. Ton of pressure. And I think you run towards pressure, right? That's just how I'm built. Um, especially being from the great city of New Orleans, right? And so, but we ended up winning that game. And so when you're in moments like that, it prepares you for moments like this.
Wow, very much agreed on that one. The national championship was an amazing game. I know it was heartbreaking to y'all. I mean, the last few seconds. I
Mm.
mean, so close to finally getting Houston a national title for the first time in a long, long time. And you know, but the consistency of that program, like you said, you know, taking that program and rising it from the dead to becoming one of the best programs, not just in the nation, but in that state of Texas. That is something else that, Houston, not just the fact they're one of the best, they taken over that state.
Right. I agree, man. And so to do what we've done, it's not easy, man. It's not easy winning the game. It's not easy getting to the tournament, right? But to win a Big 12 championship, to win a conference championship, and then make it to the national championship, man, that's just a testament to the head coach, the staff, and for sure the players. Because having a great head coach is awesome, and a great staff. But again, going back to the question you guys asked before, being able to evaluate and get the right type of kids to, come together and to play for something bigger than themselves. That's, sounds cliche, sounds, you know, simple, but it's not. But we've had some really really high character guys who all want to win, and believe it or not, there's a lot of kids out there, even in this day and age with the landscape constantly changing, that still care about winning and keeping the main thing. And I think in the recruiting process, we've been able to identify those guys, and I'm extremely excited about the kids that we got coming in at UL. We got some highly talented young men that all want to win. And the first question I ask those guys in recruiting them, as well as my staff, is, what's most important to you? And I listen closely. That's the first question I ask. And, all these guys say winning, right? And so, and you could tell the ones that really mean it, and by their body language when you're on the Zoom, you have them for an official visit. The guys we got, they really really mean that. They want to win. They want to get back to. I had several of them text me when we were playing in the national championship game right after and say, "Coach, we gonna get there." So I knew it. I know I got the right type of guys. It doesn't matter the name of the school, man. I say this all the time. It's about the people that's at the school. You
Mhm.
look at Houston, you look back at just before the 2 years we were in the Big 12, we were in the American Conference, but yet we've been ranked for 7 straight seasons in the top 10, right? And that was in a mid-major league, right? Where most people would call a mid-major league, but Houston is now a powerhouse. They're ranked number 1 in the country. So the league doesn't matter. It's about the head coach, the staff, and the players that you have on your team. That's what it's about, right? And then obviously you got to have a great administration, and I feel like we hitting on all cylinders at UL, and that's a huge reason why I took the job.
Absolutely. You and you had a right hand man in itself for years and years, and y'all played together. Y'all been friends for a long time. Hollis Price. I mean, you guys. I mean, won the state championship in 2001, and some people Am I right? Or is it 2000 or 99?
99, 99,
99,
brother. I got
99.
you.
I knew
I
it had to be.
got you. Don't I got you.
Don't look at me,
In
Jed.
in
I messed
in
up.
in,
That's
in the
my bad.
Cajun Dome. In the
Oh
Cajun
yeah.
Dome where they had 13, well, 15,000, I believe.
Yes. And
Yep.
what a coincidence. What a coincidence that you take over that program and all them years later, and you see your alma mater winning a state championship, 30-year
Awesome.
anniversary of the national championship with three of the players on the coaching staff. That's real big time coincidence. But you and Hollis was on that 99 team, probably one of the deepest St. Aug benches we've ever seen, to be honest. You know what I'm saying? Because of the fact it was a different person stepping up every night. But y'all y'all got together again in Oklahoma. But what a great story for you at the time. You had to go play junior college basketball before you came to Oklahoma. What made you think that more than anything else that, man, look like I gotta join with my dog and try to help him out at Oklahoma? What was that? What was going on at that time?
Yeah, man. During the recruiting process, I mean, I only had one school recruit me out of high school, and that was Nickel State. And you know, Coach Broussard, I can't think of the name of all the coaches that were over there, but really great guys. I appreciate them still to this day because to get a scholarship offer to go, continue to pursue your career is that's special. It doesn't matter where it comes from, but I had aspirations of playing high major basketball, and I wanted to go, prove to the world that I can play at the highest level and all that good stuff. And so I got an opportunity to go play at Milton Junior College. My freshman year, we went to the national tournament. Uh, I had I've been blessed with a lot of great head coaches, and I call them great because they're great people. They are great coaches, on the floor, but they are even better people off the floor. And so those guys, I actually have one of the assistant coaches. His name is Scott Rains. He's my assistant coach right now. Right. So that tells you a lot about, what those guys meant to me and the impact they had in my life. Right. But I had a really good freshman year, still didn't have any scholarships. And then the summer I went to Mullins Junior College camp and did really well. And then from that camp leading into my sophomore year, everything started changing from a recruiting standpoint. And so I went from no scholarships to having, you know, mostly most of the institution across the country recruit me. And so, but me and Hollis's history, I watched Coach Sampson from afar because I really, I was a student and I like to study the game and, just the passion he had and, the way he coached, the intensity, and, it was just exciting for me, man, to watch him coach his players, but also the freedom that he gave them. And so that really stood out to me. So that was one thing. But then having Hollis over there and the familiarity that I had with him and, winning the state championship at St. Aug in 99. And I knew what he was about. That's all me and him cared about was winning. And so, we talked during the recruiting process and, it really became, a no brainer, especially after I took the visit and, saw the players that were on the team. And I started, putting those pieces together because any guy that really cares about winning, you want to play right. And so knowing Hollis was in the backcourt and to be the point guard, he was going to be the two guard. I knew what we did in high school, and I said, hey, if we did it in high school, we can go do the same damn thing in college. And so that's kind of how that came about, man. And I wouldn't if I can go back and do it all over again. I would make that same decision. And so I tell these guys that I recruit to this day, and I think this is what separates us from most schools, is I'm not just recruiting the kids over at UL for just 4 years. I played for Coach Sampson, but then he hired me as a coach, right? So it's about family, right? So it's not a 1, 2, 3, 4 year deal. As long as God has breath in my body, man, it spares my life and gives me that blessing and opportunity to continue to coach. I'm gonna be here for our guys as long as I'm on this earth, and I'm gonna try to continue to reach back and help guys. I got three of my former players who played on my AU program on my staff, right? Nobody thinks about that. They don't look at right now. It's just, a lot of tunnel vision going on. It's NIL, is, rare shit, how much money I could get. No one thinks and tries to see the entire floor. Well, I want to go play for Coach Quannas because he cares about my child beyond the years that he's going to play at UL. I have great relationships with all of my guys that I've coached at Tulane, Western Kentucky, Houston, as well as every player that I've coached during my AAU time. It's not a day that goes by. I had one of my kids from my AAU program text me today. So, if anybody asks me what separates me in terms of recruitment, it's that. So, but yeah, back to Coach Hollis, man. I know I'm running it with you guys, but yeah, that was a huge reason why I chose to go and play at Oklahoma.
That's big right there. And you and Hollis wound up working together at Oklahoma. As I'm gonna say, working at Houston, University of Houston, and Hollis is still there and everything else. And I know you're gonna pretty much miss him, but at the same time, everybody's got their own lives doing what they got to do, and I know you're gonna root for one another. So I'm gonna ask you this last question. I'm gonna give it over to George Peppers, and before I ask that question, I want to tell you that I'm really proud of what you're doing, and congratulations to you on what you're doing right now. You're making everyone proud, including myself, because you have overcome a lot of things. You and Hollis has overcame a lot of things to be where
Absolutely.
you are right now.
Thank you, man.
Y'all two are like the biggest stories. And some people like, yeah, they're telling them like, hey, you don't know the story with those two guys, what they had to go through to get where they need to be. So knowing you personally, it means a lot to me. My last question: the press conference in itself. And I looked at it, and you had your wife, I believe, and your child, family, and everything. What it means to the family that yet you're back home in the state of Louisiana.
Man, my mom and my dad, man, they two of my biggest supporters, and believe it or not, they they may have just let's just talk about last season. I don't They might have missed two games, man. And so but to have me, get the opportunity to go improve myself, which I'm eagerly looking forward to. To come back home, it means the world to them, right? So that press conference, I can, as I was speaking and talking about, my vision and where I see the program going and where we're heading, and I can look at over to my mom, as I was talking and going through my spiel, and a tear kind of ran down her face, and I just can, I know how much she appreciates it, and I know she prayed for this to happen, and she's just extremely excited. I got to throw the first pitch at the softball and baseball game, and she was right there. My dad was right there. So actually my daughter just graduated. I'm just today actually, and so we just
Congratulations.
came back
Congratulations.
from
Congratulations.
dinner. Came back from dinner, but they don't miss a beat, man. I would not be here if it was not for those two people. And so then my older brother, who's a firefighter, who's my mentor, Clarence White. For me to come back home, he's been there. He's never left New Orleans, and so I got a ton of friends, man. Will Jones, all these guys that went to St. Aug, and Coach Clee and Randy, and all these guys. Extremely excited, really supportive, and everybody's behind me 110%, and that's a great feeling, man. And you don't get that nowhere else but home, right?
That's correct.
Absolutely, man. And
So
that's big. That's big, especially for your daughter. I have a daughter myself. So you know what I'm saying. Big ups to you. Continue to do what you do as a family, man. George Peppers.
Coach Quannas, first off, congratulations. I echo VK's and Sharon's sentiments. Congratulations on getting this job, well deserved, and we all wish you the best of luck going forward as you embark on this new adventure at Louisiana. Crazy thing is that when I get used to calling Louisiana a program, it used to be ULL. Lafayette. Now it's University of Louisiana. It's like, man, okay, let's get this identity thing. But coaching under Calvin Sampson, coaching under Calvin Sampson, most people don't know when you played for the national title, when you guys were in the national title game this past April, would have been a milestone win had y'all pulled it off. It would have been Calvin's 800th win. He has
Mm.
799. Yes, and look, it took an incredible comeback by Florida to get you guys. What can you take from that experience as you now transition going to Louisiana? The aura of the Final Four, the pressures, and everything. What can you take from that now coming into a non-power five school like Louisiana, and what kind of impacts do you feel like can be made with Louisiana as you embark on this adventure?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, huge impact. Again, being in those situations, I don't know if I can be more prepared, right?
Hmm.
We won at a extremely high level. I think our
Hmm.
record that we finished with was 35-5, right? I think the year
Hmm.
before it was 31 and I don't know, 4, somewhere around the same, right? So the last 2 years, let's just stop there. I think we lost less than 10 games. I mean, in 160, maybe 63, 64, something like that. And so when you've been a part of something special like that, man, that just prepares you. If you're in any environment like that, it just helps you, when it's time to move forward. And it helped me a great deal. And so I couldn't be more ready because of those experiences. And to share with these guys, a lot of what I've learned over those years, whether it be at practice in the film room and our staff retreats, and all of those things, man, and all of those experiences has helped me a great deal. And when I get with my team, which would be June 8th, that'll be our first team meeting, and I'm extremely excited. All of our guys will be in town. I think most will be there. All of them will be there June 5th, I think, and so we'll meet as a team and as a staff uh, June 8th. And so, I've been in those meetings, for
Hmm.
8 seasons just at Houston, and uh, I've just learned a great deal of what to do, what not to do. And then from a recruiting standpoint, man, it all starts with that. You cannot make mistakes in recruiting. Especially in this day and age, man. You got to have the guys that fit you, that you know want to play the way you coach. And so and I understand that, and that's why we've been really successful at Houston, because we've gotten the right guys that are committed to, following the head coach's lead, and whatever the head coaches passing on to the assistant coaches to trickle down to the players. And so yeah, every box for me is checked off, because I've been a part of all those situations, man.
Hmm. This past tournament didn't have the aura of the past, and what I mean by that is that mid majors were very minimal impactfully in this tournament. You didn't have a lot of double digit mid majors upset, going deep like into the Sweet 16 and the Elite Eight. What do you have to do at Louisiana to break that going into next season to get to the not just get to the tournament, but to make an impact in the tournament too?
Yeah, I think it again. I talked about culture. What's your
Mhm.
culture? You know, uh, I'm big on not making excuses, right? I've been a have not. I've been the underdog.
Mhm.
And so I know what that feels like. I brought up, my junior college days where I started at. The other thing I would tell you is, every year that Coach Sampson's coached in the Final Four, I've been a part of it,
Hmm.
right? Once as a player, twice as a coach. And so, again, experience is the best teacher. And I'm a big why not
Mhm.
guy. When I first got to Houston, and not to say I'm the end all be all, because I'm not, but I did make a huge impact in my lane, right? And so when I first got there, I told the entire staff, I also talked with Coach Sampson, this is the same thing I did as a player. before we played in any game at Oklahoma, I told them we was going to the Final Four that year. Well, that year we went to the Final Four. So I'm big on speaking things into existence. And, I'm a firm believer in, me and God is a majority. And so I believe it could be done at UL. Why not? I would not have taken that job, right, and leave a program that was consistently going to the tournament. And I mean this with all sincerity, if I didn't believe that UL couldn't do those same things. And I'm committed to it. And so that's what I believe. I don't just want to win championships. I want to be different. I want to do things differently. I want this program to take new heights. And then eventually, not right out the gate, but eventually I want this program to be a powerhouse program like Houston is. No one thought 7, 8 years ago that Coach Sampson would rejuvenate that program. No one thought that, 7, 8 years ago that Houston would be number one in the country. And I get what opinions or everyone has one. But the only thing that matters is the head coach and what he believes, the staff and the people around you, and those players that you are recruiting that's a part of your team. And so that's all I care about, right? Lafayette is a great city. We got great resources. We got a great administration. It can be done at Lafayette, and that's what I'm committed to doing. And so, I believe that beautiful arena, which is the Cajun Dome, will be filled with 13,000. You call me crazy. It was for St. Aug, so I'm planning on getting it back. Right. I see you
Hmm.
shake your head, but we're gonna get there, brother.
No, I was saying I wouldn't call you crazy. That's what I was saying.
Oh,
I
I
wouldn't do
got
that.
you. Yeah, but that's just me, man. That's my confidence, and even back to my senior year at St. Aug, you know, I was set on winning a state championship, man, before we played in any game. And that's the truth, fellas. I told Coach Sampson before I played in any game at Oklahoma that we would get to the Final Four. So think about that. A junior college kid coming out of junior college, you got this Hall of Fame coach, and this junior college kid goes up to him and say, "Hey, we're going to the Final Four this year," and it happens, right? Nothing but God, and I have to give so much credit to him because he never shot it down, right? He never say, "Hey, wait. You don't know the league you're playing in. This is the best league in the country at the time. You got Kirk Heinrich, uh, you know, Drew Gooden over at Kansas, um, Tony Allen at Oklahoma State. I mean, this league is loaded. Missouri is really good. I think the same year we went to the Final Four, those guys we beat them to go to the Final Four, right? So they went to the Elite Eight. But again, a credit to Coach. He said, okay, this kid here is he believes in something. He's different. And so, again, I think UL could do some great things, man, and we all going to do some great things over there. I'm excited.
I don't doubt that about you. I feel like Louisiana's a team. They've got the right man in charge. You. I think this is a
Appreciate
team
that,
we'll
man.
be talking about. Not a problem, man, and it's heartfelt. I feel like this is a team we're going to talk about getting to the tournament, and us doing brackets and stuff. We might have to push y'all a little ways coming bracketology at some point, which will be cool. And we're going to
There
remember
you
this
go.
interview because you speak a lot of things into existence, and I
Yes,
see
sir.
that confidence in you. I see that confidence in you. I think that's going to serve the group well, and I think the fan base is going to love what you're bringing. And that's just me being honest with you, Coach. Um,
Thank you.
you said you haven't met with. You're welcome. You haven't met with your team yet. You said you're going to meet with them on June the 8th, and you talk about your recruitment of players that are culture oriented, basically like buying into what you're going to do, what you believe, and they've got to lock in with you. Um, in saying that, does the transfer portal concern you? Let's say your players break out, as I would expect they would. Let's say a couple of your players break out and have big years, and the big schools come hunting. Um, how do you feel about the portal in and of itself? I don't mind the NIL at all. I think every athlete should be compensated, but the transfer portal, I feel like the timing of it is a little bit skewered in all of our sports. But how do you feel about the portal itself?
Yeah. You either evolve or you get left behind. Um,
Mhm.
and that's my answer to that. And so you're absolutely right. I have some studs on my team, man. I mean, I got some really high level guys, and so I'm expecting all these guys to, have a really good year. And so with that comes, the big schools, the high major programs, Power Fives, Power Fours that, uh, you know, may have more resources and, quite frankly, right as of right now, have more money, right? And so that's ahead. And I'm right now I'm more focused on, the task at hand, and I understand that and get that, but you know I got some guys on my team uh, that we beat out a couple high major schools for. Uh, and I won't go into too much detail, right? I got a high major guard that played in the Big 12. I got a top 60 kid that turned down some high major schools that was originally committed to a high major school that decided to come over at UL. And so that's what I mean about these kids are different. And again, I recruited along with Coach Sampson, Jarris Walker. Jarris Walker, who's playing with the Indiana Pacers right now. He came to Houston was when it was on its way to being having national relevance, but we were still in a mid-major league, right? We were playing in the American Conference. Well, that kid chose
Mhm.
to come in the American Conference and turn down Power Five SCC schools, right? Some Big 12 schools. But he came to Houston, which was in the American Conference. But he was the right type of kid that wanted to keep the main thing. And he wanted to be prepared and win at a high level, make the tournament, try and compete for a national championship, but also be prepared for the NBA. Well, I'm big on player development, right? And humbly speaking, I think I'm one of the best there is out there, right? And I think I've got the staff to develop these guys to, one day after they're done, make it to the NBA. I want to have several guys make it to the NBA out of UL, and that can happen, right? And I've been a part of that. I got the floor plan for it, right? I've developed the majority of our guards uh, at Houston. I say majority, all of them, right? And so that's what I was in charge of. And so
Right.
I know how to
Okay.
prepare, I know how to develop and coach. And so that puts those kids where I hope they desire to be. So to try to combat, the NIL and, everything that's changing, I think, we'll still be, competitive with the guys that we got on our team, when it comes down to the spring. Now we still need help with the NIL though
Last
as well.
part.
So
Oh, I get you. I get you. Before I ask my last question, before I forget, just want to, on behalf of us, the three of us, I want to wish you the best of luck as you embark on Louisiana and get them back to where they belong, and that's the tournament. Um, Last question. You're going to craft you have culture players. How will you craft your schedule to to help their development? Will it be mostly state schools, mid majors? Are you going to sprinkle in some Power Fives? Have you put together a schedule? Because I admittedly have not seen it yet. What kind of a schedule are you going to put together? And will Houston be on it at some point so you can coach against Calvin Sampson? That would be fun.
yeah. Well, uh, I'm gonna say this. Absolutely, I want to position our guys right. You talk about player development, you talk about winning, but my other goal is to get UL in the top 25, and I think you got to be strategic with your scheduling, right? You got to go play people. You can't talk the talk and then not want to go play high major schools or some really good mid-major plus schools, right? And so I don't want to go into too much detail with our schedule. We still in the midst of finalizing it, but
Okay.
I think when it comes out, the fans are going to be extremely excited about the teams that we've scheduled. Which is, in a non-conference, we don't have a non-D1 team that we're playing. Every team is Division 1, and these are some really good teams. We have a couple in state, but we got some really good mid-major teams that across the country that's out of state that are going to be coming into the Cajun Dome that are really good, that have been in the tournament last season. So I'm excited, man. I'm excited. My staff excited. These kids that we got coming in, our team, really excited, and just looking forward to it, man.
Most definitely. Coach Quannas White, we want to wish you the best of luck moving forward at the University of Louisiana, and thank you for joining us tonight on the show.
No, thank you guys for having me, man.
Definitely.
Appreciate you.
Thank
All
you,
right,
coach.
coach.
Appreciate your time, man. And I see you
Anytime,
guys in
brother.
Lafayette
Oh, yeah, definitely,
Yes,
That
Coach.
sir.
works.
Most
for the
definitely we'll see you
Cajun
in
Dome,
Lafayette,
brother.
without a doubt.
All
Thank you, Coach.
right, my man. Appreciate y'all.
All right.
All right, coach.
Coach Quannas White, boy, 1999, St. Augustine, him and Hollis Price, that they were a problem. They were a problem. Yeah, my good buddy Jason Jackson the Shaw, he could tell you all about it. He could tell you all about it. They were a problem.
They
Uh,
were a huge problem. And then the thing
here he
about
go.
it,
Here he go cutting in, George. They
I'm
were a huge problem. St. Augustine, there you go.
Couldn't get
I,
the
Perfect right.
I,
championship year.
There you
Hey,
I
go,
but
George.
but he
Thank
couldn't
you,
get the
George.
championship year right. He said 2001, and it was 99. Now I'm picking on you, VK. It's all
of
fun,
course,
baby.
of
Don't get
course,
me.
of
Don't.
course, of course. No, I'm saying that, and I'm not trying to say it because I'm bragging at the school. You have to think about this. St.
Mm-hmm.
Aug was scary because the fact Quanis and Hollis in the regular season that year was up and down. The roster was just that deep that year because it was just different people stepping up every night for the Purple Knights. That's how good that bench was for St. Aug. And I'm telling the God honest truth because I went to about 8 games and Hollis might have had maybe about what 14, 15 points. Quantas might have had maybe 12, 13, had a good bit of assists. But you got people like a Brandon Trotter, you got people like a Aristotle Ben, you got people like Brandon Black Adams, different people every night that contribute some way, somehow. And also, Coach Griff had run about 10 to 12 players off the bench. They ran about there was 10, 12 deep that year. And Hollis Price got it together in the playoffs. That was the real scary part. He turned up in the playoffs. So just saying though, it was an interesting, a very good team, and we were just hoping that year they was gonna win it all. But I tell you, man, that team really stepped up. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, this rain kicking in all of a sudden, ladies and
Man,
gentlemen.
hey,
But
here too.
yeah,
Go
I
ahead.
know. This
Yeah,
all
it's
three of
coming
us.
down something fierce over
Woo.
here.
But yeah, Coach Quannas Whiting, Coach Hollis Price, man, they was something else, man. They was something else. But them Shaw St. Aug battles back in the day, man,
Fun
they was
stuff.
you had to be there. You had
Yes.
to be there. It was at St.
Mm-hmm.
Aug, it was at Shaw. You had to be there. We're gonna close the show, ladies and gentlemen. We had a good show. I want to thank, well, not I, we would like to thank Coach Chad Abear of Sam Houston and Coach Quannas White of the University of Louisiana for taking time out of their schedule to join us on the Hash It Out show tonight. We truly thank you. We'll be back next week. We'll have some guests once again and bring y'all a good show. Football is coming fast, y'all. It's coming fast. So get ready, get ready. Um, we starting to, you know, get our schedule of the games we're going to stream, and there is one game for sure that we have, and there's another game we might have too. But we're gonna have a lot more. I'm not gonna tell y'all yet, but
Mm-mm.
I can just tell y'all week 9 and week 10 we probably got a game, and we'll have more games alongside that. But I'll give y'all the last word quickly. VK, go first.
Man, good show tonight and everything, man. All I'm gonna tell you, all the fans out there, we might need your help on some things. Stay tuned for it. Stay tuned for it. Because we all need your support for what we're about to do going forward. So hey, Hash It Out show is really pushing to another level more than anything else. And great. It's great to have these two coaches, two great men, coming on to talk about their journeys and what they are doing to help these kids and everything. Man, it's good to have those two guys on the show, and we're gonna have some great guests the next couple weeks, man. And a big shout out going to Ryan Clark. Big shout out to him. He walked the whole thing back about RG3. He apologized to his wife
He saw our
and
show.
RG3 as well.
He saw our
So,
show.
yeah, he did. He did. Ryan Clark, the invitation's still open, but I'm very, very proud of you for walking it back and apologizing, man. Good man, bro. Good man.
George Peppers.
It was a great show tonight, and the common denominator tonight. I mean, obviously, with most anybody, these two men are men of Christ and preaching. They're strong in their faith, and that's going to serve them well. Well, especially Coach White now with his new adventure at Louisiana. Um, this was a great show tonight. And look, before we go, LSU Shreveport is playing right now in I think the semifinal of the National World Series in Lewiston, Idaho. And look, I want to give a shout out to Coach Jeremy Kennedy in Loyola. Heck of a run. Man, y'all couldn't finish that comeback down 9-0. Y'all got it to 9-8 and couldn't finish it. But you know what? Heck of a year, Coach Kennedy. Great things going forward for you. But to coaches, to the staff at LSU Shreve, finish the job, man, because I want to see this undefeated thing. I am rooting hard for this thing to finish unblemished. Because in baseball, that is absolutely unheard of that a team can go
Correct.
undefeated. Undefeated. That's crazy. But that said, and I was actually looking. I don't know if you guys are checking this out, but Oklahoma City's up 33 at the half on Minnesota.
It's over.
That that
It's
series,
over.
well, when Ed Edwards didn't take responsibility for the game four failures, that series was done. That Oklahoma
Over.
City took it back home, yeah, it's done. And hopefully the last rights are not administered tomorrow night at MSG. I need the Knicks to win 3 in a row, but I don't care. Whoever wins that series is not beating Oklahoma City at the end of the day. But this will be another look. Regional play starts this weekend in the NCAA tournament. Good luck to the lone Louisiana representative, LSU, as they embark on their regional. They can host the Super. Um, it's but it's going to be a fun tournament. It's wide open. 13 SEC teams made the tournament this year. Crazy.
Ridiculous.
And oh wow, I just saw that little lightning
You
strike
see
behind
that?
you. I saw it, dude. I was like, holy smokes, it's coming down pretty good over here. And
I can hear it. I can hear it right next to me.
West
It's
Bank's
hitting.
doing some business tonight. But great show tonight, gentlemen. We'll be back with y'all next week, and I gotta confer with you guys on something on a potential guest for Legends Month that I want to
Ooh,
get with you both about. And
okay.
it's somebody I know very well. All three of y'all know from his playing days at school, but somebody I know very, 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 very well. And I want to get with you guys about him
Ooh, Reggie Wayne.
as we know. I would love to have Reggie Wayne. Oh my goodness. It's not an Aaron alum. It's not a
Oh,
John Aaron alum.
Oh,
okay.
It is not a John Aaron alum. I'll let you guys know. And then also with the schedule of games, we're going to have to confer and get to that because bigger and better is the mantra for the Hash It Out show this year. We rising up. We're going to rise up and elevate this year as we continue to do so. It's going to be a
Saying
groundbreaking year
give
for
them
us.
more games. Give them more games after playing this
Yeah,
year. More games.
absolutely. The more the better.
That's
The
right.
more the better. And also in relation to that, I got to get with you guys on something someone told me about that could affect game selection. I'll get with you guys on that as well. But have a great weekend. Hope this rain is gone by the weekend. Um, but wherever you may be, whatever you may do, please be safe.
Definitely. VK Jones for George Peppers. I'm JB the Sports Guy. We'll see y'all next week. Y'all
Hey
take care.
guys, this is Arkisha Baquet, the owner of Little Dizzy's Cafe. I am here with BK Jones, who is a part of the Hash It Out show. We're coming to let y'all know what they got going on, and Dizzy's is a proud sponsor of the show. Tell them what we got.
well, the Hash It Out show now has been on the air for 3 years, over 100 shows and everything. Right now, we got Legends Month. We are interviewing the best players that ever played in the state of Louisiana, so join us for that. But at the same time, we got the Hash It Out show Game of the Week. We're going in year number 2, making a lot of changes this year, so we're looking forward to seeing what happens. We'd like to thank Miss Arkisha and Little Dizzy's Cafe for sponsoring us.
This is one of the best restaurants in the city of New Orleans in the 6th Ward. Come over, I'm telling you. And I hope a lot of people just come by. We had last week, they had Essence Fest, and I'm telling you, it was packed. Oh my goodness.
So if you're in the area, come and see us at 1500 Esplanade Avenue in the heart of Tremay and experience some of the best Creole soul food you'll ever have in your life. Because the food is always hot.
Feeling drained from the constant noise in your daily life? Immerse yourself in pure audio bliss with drums. Experience a world of crystal clear sound, free from distractions. Discover the ultimate relaxation and escape into an oasis of serenity. Grab yours today. drumsworld.com.
If you're looking for the best pizza in Metro New Orleans, then you're in the right place. Moe's Pizza has a great selection of Italian food that can satisfy your appetite, and they can also cater to your needs in any event. Give them a call at 504-341-9650 or log on to www.moespizzanola.com, located at 1112 Avenue H in West Wego, Louisiana. Moe's Pizza, Italians do it better.
Thank you for watching the Hash It Out show. Please like